You see the helicopter before you hear it, a black shape cutting across the orange evening sky. Too high to identify, too fast to signal, too deliberate to be random. You sprint into the middle of the empty highway and wave both arms over your head. You scream, you jump, you do everything a desperate person can do when they realize they might be looking at the last chance they'll ever get. The helicopter never slows down, it never changes course, it never acknowledges you. It simply continues toward the horizon. And that's when you finally understand the truth. Nobody forgot you. They left you here on purpose. The city wasn't abandoned. You were. 3 days earlier, your life is painfully normal. You work maintenance for the city's public transit system. Nothing glamorous, nothing important. You spend your days fixing broken gates, replacing lights, checking equipment nobody notices unless it fails. You live alone. You keep mostly to yourself. You know the city better than most people because your job takes you everywhere. The tunnels, the rooftops, the stations, the forgotten corners. You know every shortcut, every hidden passage, every place people stop seeing. It is an ordinary Tuesday when everything begins. You wake up late, your phone battery died overnight. You rush through traffic, rush into work, and immediately notice something strange. Half the parking lot is empty. Not unusual, but half the cars belong to people who never miss work. You walk inside. The hallways feel quieter. Conversations stop when you approach. People seem distracted, nervous. You ask questions. Nobody gives answers. Your supervisor tells you not to worry. Your coworkers avoid eye contact. By lunch, several departments have apparently gone home early. By evening, entire sections of the building are empty. You tell yourself there must be some corporate restructuring, some government exercise, some boring explanation. The next morning feels stranger. Traffic is lighter. Schools are closed. Several stores have locked their doors. You turn on the radio. Nothing unusual. You check local news. Nothing unusual. But the city feels wrong. Like everybody knows a secret they aren't supposed to tell you. That night, your sister calls. The conversation lasts less than a minute. You still remember every second. You ask how she's doing. You ask about her kids. You ask when you're seeing her again. There is a pause, a long pause. Then she says something that makes no sense. I love you. You laugh. You tell her that's a weird thing to say out of nowhere. Another pause. Then she hangs up. The next morning, her number no longer works. Neither do dozens of others. Coworkers, friends, neighbors. You begin driving across town, searching, looking for answers. Instead, you find absence. Entire neighborhoods feel hollow. Apartment windows dark. Driveways empty. Playgrounds abandoned. The city hasn't stopped functioning. It has simply thinned, like someone slowly erasing people with an invisible hand. That evening, you return home exhausted. Your apartment building should contain nearly 80 residents. You hear nobody. No televisions, no conversations, no footsteps, just silence. The following morning, you wake up to something impossible. No traffic, none. You stand on your balcony staring at 6 lanes of highway. Empty, not a single vehicle, not one. For the first time, genuine fear enters your chest. You start calling everyone you know. No answers. You drive downtown. The city center looks frozen in time. Cars remain parked where they were left. Store signs remain illuminated. Traffic lights continue changing for roads nobody uses. You walk through blocks of complete emptiness. Your own footsteps echo off glass buildings. The sound feels wrong. Human beings aren't supposed to hear cities this quiet. You enter a grocery store. Nobody. You enter a police station. Nobody. You enter a hospital. Nobody. The beds are empty. The waiting rooms are empty. The cafeterias are empty. It feels like walking through a photograph after the people have been erased. You spend hours searching, calling, yelling, looking. Nothing. By sunset, a terrible possibility begins forming. You might be alone. Not alone in your neighborhood. Not alone in your district. Alone. Period. The realization arrives slowly, then all at once. You drive to the highest parking garage in the city. You climb to the roof. You look across miles of streets and buildings. No movement, no smoke, no people, no life. Just an entire city sitting beneath a silent sky, waiting for what you don't know. That night, you don't sleep. You sit beside the window with a baseball bat and every light turned on. Morning arrives, then another day, then another. Still nobody. The loneliness starts changing you. You begin talking aloud. You begin narrating your actions, anything to hear a human voice, even your own. The silence becomes a living thing, a pressure, a weight, a constant reminder that something is deeply wrong. Then, on the fourth day, you find the first clue, a digital billboard, one that should be displaying advertisements. Instead, it flashes a message for only 2 seconds, then disappears. You should not be here. You slam on the brakes, heart racing. The message never returns, but you know what you saw. You are not alone. Someone knows you're here. Someone knows you were left behind. That night, you begin searching every communication system you can access. Radio towers, transit networks, emergency frequencies, anything. Finally, near midnight, you hear a voice. Static, then words. Remaining individual. Static. Containment deadline. Then silence. Containment. The word lodges itself inside your brain. Containment from what?
The next morning, you begin investigating areas of the city you normally avoid. Government facilities, restricted buildings, infrastructure sites. Your maintenance credentials still open many doors. One facility in particular catches your attention, a research center near the river. You have serviced equipment there before. Security was always excessive, employees always secretive. Today, the gates stand open. You enter. The building is dark. Emergency lights cast long red shadows through empty corridors. You move carefully. Every sound seems amplified. Every corner feels dangerous. Eventually, you reach a control room. The screens are still active. Most display warnings, system failures, evacuation protocols, containment statuses. You don't understand any of it until you notice a video message recorded 3 days ago. You press play. A tired woman appears, a scientist. Her face looks haunted. She begins speaking directly into the camera. You immediately recognize her. Your sister. Your blood turns cold. You never knew where she actually worked. Now you do. The recording explains almost nothing, not directly, only fragments, references to exposure, population risk, evacuation stages. Then something worse. She says your name, not as a greeting, as a problem. She explains that one person failed mandatory screening. One person could not be located before evacuation. One person remained inside the city. You. Your chest tightens, because suddenly her strange phone call makes sense. She knew. She knew all along. The recording ends before explaining why, but one final message appears on screen. Containment breach estimated in 19 hours. A clock begins counting down. 19 hours. For the first time, you have a deadline. For the first time, you understand that whatever happened here isn't over. It's getting worse. You search the facility for answers. Most systems are damaged, most records inaccessible. But eventually, you uncover enough pieces to see the shape of the truth. Months ago, researchers discovered something beneath the city. Not a weapon, not a disease, something stranger. A naturally occurring biological phenomenon, microscopic, invisible, capable of affecting memory, identity, behavior. At first, exposure seemed harmless. Then people began changing, forgetting, losing themselves, becoming unpredictable. Nobody knew how far it could spread. Nobody knew what it would eventually do. The government chose evacuation, quiet, controlled, secret. And somehow you missed every stage because of one mistake, one stupid mistake. Weeks earlier, you ignored multiple health screening notices. You were busy, distracted, certain it wasn't important. Now, an entire city has been emptied around you, and nobody came back because everyone believed you had already been evacuated. The guilt hits harder than the fear. Thousands of people relocated, massive operations launched, and you are trapped because you couldn't be bothered to attend an appointment. You sit alone inside the dark facility, listening to the countdown. 18 hours, 17, 16. The city outside remains silent, and for the first time, you cry. Not because you're afraid, Because you're lonely. Because you realize your sister tried to save you. Because you realize she may never know whether you survived. Because every mistake feels obvious after it's too late to undo. Then you notice something else. The countdown isn't measuring your death, it's measuring a release. An automated system beneath the city, one final containment measure. When the timer reaches 0, the underground chambers will flood with a neutralizing compound. The process will destroy the phenomenon permanently, but anyone still inside the city will die, including you. You finally understand why nobody came back. The city itself is scheduled for execution. The hours vanish. You search desperately for alternatives, evacuation routes, escape corridors, transportation systems. Nothing works. Every exit was sealed after the evacuation completed. Every route requires authorization you don't possess. The clock continues falling. 6 hours. 5. 4. You eventually discover one possibility. Only one. The facility's central reactor controls the release sequence. If you manually disable it, you can stop the flooding. You can save yourself. But doing so allows the phenomenon to spread beyond the city. Eventually, millions could be exposed. Or you can leave the system active, protect everyone else, and die. You stare at the controls. You stare at the timer. You stare at your reflection in the dark monitor. Nobody is here to judge you. Nobody is here to know what choice you make. You could save yourself, and nobody would ever know, except you. 3 minutes remain. Your hands shake. 2 minutes. You think about your sister. You think about the people who trusted the evacuation plan. You think about the empty streets, the empty homes, the lives already disrupted. 1 minute. You place your hand on the shutdown switch. 40 seconds. Your heart pounds. 30 seconds. You remove your hand. 20 seconds. You step away. 10, 9, 8. You close your eyes. 7, 6, 5. You choose everyone else. 4, 3, 2, 1. Nothing happens. You open your eyes. The countdown reaches 0, then keeps going. -1, -2, -3. A voice suddenly fills the control room. Containment verification complete. You freeze. Subject demonstrated voluntary sacrifice. The screens flicker alive, one by one. Live camera feeds appear. People, hundreds of them, watching. Scientists, officials, emergency personnel. Your sister, tears running down her face. You stumble backward, unable to process what you're seeing. The voice continues. The phenomenon was real. The danger was real. But one final evaluation remained. Researchers needed to determine whether prolonged exposure affected moral judgment, whether exposed individuals could still place humanity above self-preservation. You were the final unresolved case. The city wasn't abandoned forever. It was quarantined, and you were never forgotten. You were being watched the entire time. Hours later, helicopters arrive, real ones. This time they land. This time they come for you. When you finally step outside, the city no longer feels empty. It feels precious, because you now understand what loneliness really costs. Because you now understand how responsibility feels when nobody is forcing it upon you. And because you learn something in those silent streets that will stay with you for the rest of your life. You discover who you really are when nobody is watching, the moment you choose as if somebody is.